gigantic military railroad program in history focuses new interest on Camp Claiborne, pride of the Army Transportation Corps. Railroad operating battalions are trained for the major function of keeping the iron horse rolling in overseas theaters of operations. It's part of the long-range plan to solve the vital problem of transporting troops and supplies in pace with the fast-moving Allied offensives on world battlefronts. The activities of these soldiers of the railroad may be partially overlooked. You might even put them into the classification of unsung heroes. But by any name, you're sure to meet up with them somewhere, helping you and your equipment to reach their assigned destinations, safely and in a hurry. Trained to their particular jobs, just as you're trained to handle the gun, the tank, or jeep, they have been made to be ready for real assignments, and they can be found where the fire of battle is at a white heat. For an effective illustration, we move to the North African battle scene, where Army railroad workers wrote heroic chapters during the hectic 6-month campaign. Locomotives and rolling stock had to be serviced 24 hours a day. Strategic rail sections destroyed by the enemy had to be rebuilt almost overnight. Lines to Tunis and Bizerte had to be opened and operated. The logistics of the campaign put extra heavy emphasis on railway links. The assignment was overwhelming. The time was short, but the men of the railroad battalions knew their jobs. Equipment long lacking proper maintenance was given new efficiency. Military railroad traffic at the front increased in carload tonnage. And when the Allied commanders took final accounting of the contributing factors to victory in North Africa, the railroad troops were not forgotten. At this point, the training of these men should again be mentioned. Railroad operating battalions for every front, drilled in the manner to be illustrated in the balance of this film. We've returned to Camp Claiborne and are following the soldier railroad students into the classrooms where the fundamentals of railroad work are expounded. Telegraphy is always essential. The teaching method includes the sending of messages by the instructor, which the students receive by ear and then record on paper. Officers at Camp Claiborne are experienced railroad men, recruited from the nation's major railroads. Actual railroad experience is also looked for among enlisted personnel, with many old-timers in the ranks. Now, an interesting training feature, the step-by-step procedure of getting an Army railroad line into action. First, the chief dispatcher prepares the order for the makeup of a train, as required by the particular situation. A copy of the order is passed on to the dispatcher, whose responsibility it is to call the orderly room for the necessary train crew. In quick order, the men are on their way. The yard master gives orders to the yard foreman for making up the special train. The yard engine the foreman is starting off will be utilized for the purpose of building up the train, beginning with the caboose. Now the job is for the switchman to close the siding from which the engine picked up the caboose and open the siding on which the train will be built up. And before long, the train is completely built up. Each car will serve a definite purpose. They detach the yard engine, and Mr. Iron Horse himself proudly struts out of the roundhouse. The coupling of the engine to the completed train is the next step. Ready to roll. But first, there are a few details. The conductor checks his watch against the master clock in the yardmaster's office and signs the outgoing train register. Then he receives his orders. The engineer also gets the orders. Meanwhile, the rear brakeman climbs aboard the caboose and hangs out the rear lamp. All hands now wear helmets, gas masks, and pistols. All aboard! The military railroad at Camp Claiborne in operation. The line itself is a 50-mile run between Claiborne and Camp Polk. Government-built, owned, and operated, it was originally designed for the sole purpose of training railroad operating battalions. However, it has since served as a valuable transportation link between the two camps for the movement of troops and supplies. Along the line, the train makes a water stop. Every operation of the Army Railroad has been worked out to take the minimum amount of time. There are 8 stations between Claiborne and Polk, and the telegraph operators deliver orders on the run to the engineer and the conductor. Following the policy of advanced unit training, the Army Transportation Corps conducts training under mock combat conditions.